I have this list of questions in regards to VIDAC.
Yeah, before that, for the Geek Pulse and VIDAC people, here's some of the good news. The new ESS is in-house. So we will put out on my new design board over here. We will start to do some fun testing. I will let you guys know the result. Should be good. All right.
So we addressed a lot of this, by the way, in the VIDAC content. We worked pretty hard over the weekend to update the content. So there are some questions in here that have been addressed, but we might as well answer them on the video as well.
Yes.
So the first one on the list is the headphone output going to be on the back of VIDAC. I can answer that one, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so the original thought was yes, we were going to do that because the design of VIDAC is so beautiful. We didn't want to hodgepodge it up in the front by adding connectors. But in the end, form has to follow function, right? And it is a headphone amplifier DAC, so we will have both a 1/4 inch and a 4-pin balanced headphone jack on the front of VIDAC. And Kayla is actually pretty happy with it now that we're doing darker colors. We're looking at different finishes on the VIDAC, so that will all come out of the front. No worries there.
So answer is we will have balanced and single-ended output in the front. For me, makes no difference where you put it. Just I have it.
Right.
Good.
Okay, types of outputs. This is actually kind of a fun question because we have we have a few different versions of VIDAC, right? XFI and tube. Then on the tube version, we have an optional balanced output. We also have the infinity version as well. So let's talk about outputs on the back of VIDAC. You want to take it?
Okay. So going to the very basic, the VIDAC XFI, right? Basically, whatever it has on input and output is exactly the same like Geek Pulse XFI. Same thing. So for input side, we have USB, we have 2 SPDIF, we have 1 AES, 1 toslink. That's all. For XFI, same thing. Then we have the upgrade for VI2, right? VIDAC 2. Then in that case, we will have 2 additional single-ended tube output.
So the output on XFI, let's go back, is 1 pair of RCAs,
yes,
1 pair of XLRs.
Yes.
And then when we do tube, then we will have those, plus we'll have another single-ended tube output.
Yeah. So in that case, we got 6 output.
Channels. Right.
3 pairs. Will be 1 pair single-ended out of solid state, 1 balanced output from solid state, 1 single-ended output from tube. When you add one more option for the balanced tube output, you got a 4th. That's balanced tube output. So maximum you can have 4 pairs, 8 channels output from VIDAC.
I don't want to sidetrack, but on the balanced output for the tube, I guess I do want to sidetrack.
Go ahead.
Tell us about the design for turning what is essentially a single-ended tube buffer into a balanced output.
Okay, so to keep the virtue of the tube, I usually would love to have single-ended tube buffer stage there. Sorry, it's a design choice, but I choose single-ended balance, a single-ended tube there. So when we have single-ended output, it's very easy, and it's the best way to implement that is we put an output transformer, taking the output from that single-ended, and the other side we put a ground. So on the back of that transformer, you can have the positive and minus balance output. Wow.
It works.
Yeah.
Positive and negative, it's not referring to ground at that point.
You're not referring to the ground, and you have a very nice ground isolation, by the way. So in that case, your preamp or your rest of system, their ground is totally separate with the DAC when you have the output transformer.
Got it. Okay. Tube output for headphones.
Sorry, in this case, we don't have the space to implement that. Okay, tell you more detail. There are 2 ways to do tube headphone output. 2 ways. If you will put the tube in the output stage, one is we call OTL. output transformer less. Some people may know that OTL design. We need a very powerful output tube, maybe this big. And we need a lot of power supplies there, so I don't think I have the space to squeeze into VIDAC. The other way is it's called OT. We have output transformer for half ohms. Okay, sounds good, right? But again, because there are all kinds of half ohms. They have 300 ohm, they have 16 ohm, someone even tell me they are 8 ohm something. So we need a very big, like maybe this, the size of this, to make sure we have a great frequency response on lower frequency, if we are talking about very low impedance output. So in that case, again, we need such a big thing. I don't think Kayla has.
It's not practical for
it's not
VIDAC,
practical there. So my suggestion is, if you want to do that, you should have a VIDAC, have a line output going to the half ohm amplifiers.
Yeah.
That would be the best way to do it.
Cool. Will there be a crossfire option for headphone listening? I'm not even sure what crossfire.
Crossfeed.
Crossfeed is. There we go. Yes.
Should be crossfeed. Okay, crossfeed is a technique that we use that part of our 3D Awesome Fire.
That's what they're asking. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
According to market feedback, I can do that, but currently a lot of people, at least I feel from the geek forces, they just don't need that at all.
Yeah, we put a lot of effort and a lot of Larry's time and energy into the 3D Awesomeifier, and a lot of the board itself is dedicated just to that, right?
Yeah.
There's probably about this much of the board is dedicated to crossfeed, and in the end, most users didn't use it. So when we did the firmware upgrade, we completely got rid of it. It's there, the hardware is there. You can go back to the other firmware and it'll work, and I think it sounds great. But as far as from the sales and marketing side, from adding the ability to sell it, to get more units out into the market, it right now doesn't add enough value to justify it.
Yeah, and one more information I want to share is the DSP and the CPU power. So on Geek Out, I remember we got the X modes, right? Either you do the digital filters, different kind of digital filter or digital modes we have, or you do the DSP like 3D Awesome Fire. So in the end, we choose the right-hand side. So that's the reason why on Geek Out 1v5 firmware, you have much better digital filter response on TCM, FRM. I think you guys know it. But you lost ability for 3D Awesome Fire. So it happens same thing like here. I would rather to put the CPU power on that and not this.
Yeah, well, yeah, the filter modes are a big hit.
Yes.
A big hit. Okay, let's talk about, people are asking about the volume control. Is there going to be a knob in the thing? And we've talked about a couple of different options. We talked about a knob on the front. We also talked about maybe like a mouse wheel kind of a thing up in the front, but we actually ended up, you and I, landing on an option which is remote control, remote volume control. So our plan for VIDAC right now is to have no physical knob to turn the volume up or down or to get into the menu system. And it has the same menu system as Geek Pulse, right? But instead, you'll be able to use the Apple remote. You can pair an Apple remote, and you'll be able to move through the menu system, and you'll be able to control the 64-bit volume attenuation. Be set to go.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, confirmation that it will be firmware upgradable would be nice. So talking about the new firmware management system for VIDAC is a good idea.
For VIDAC, on the USB board, for the main board, it will be the same like what you do for the Geek Pulse and Geek Out. You just upload your DFU firmware, they can do it. And I know, sorry, the Mac, we all have the beta program to run the DFU there. According to the statistic, roughly 50% of our backers, they can use it. Still, there are another 50% that still cannot use it. But that's the reason we already report that problem to Apple. Hopefully we can get that feedback soon.
Which, by the way, the reason that we were building that is that it is non-existent anywhere in the world for that platform. which we hate because, I mean, look around, we're Mac users, and that's what we use in the office, that's what we use at home. We hate the inconvenience of not being able to use Windows, but so far, nobody's been able to come up with a I guess, reliable solution. Yeah.
There are many hardware different. Okay, it's all Mac, right? But different. Some are USB 3.0, some are USB 2.0. Sometimes they use different ICs, different chipset. And the Mac OS, we have Yosemite, we have Maverick, we have Snow Leopard. Oh my God! So there are many combinations. We already report the problem to Apple. We haven't got any feedback yet, but I hope we will be soon. But before that, don't worry. You can use Parallel. The other,
any type of
a lot of virtual machines you can run on Windows or borrow your friend's Windows machine just one time to upgrade, and that's it.
But in the meantime, so for upgrading the matrix board and everything else, what's the solution?
Oh yeah, so for ViDAC, we will design a micro SD card slot. You just need to copy the new firmware to that micro SD, insert that to the matrix display board. It will automatically update the whole firmware.
Yeah, and this comes from the benefit of having multiple engineers working on multiple projects at the same time. This comes from Jeff working on how are we going to update the firmware for Geek Wave, right? And he and Larry were able to come to some type of solution using micro SD.
Yes.
I'm sure on Geek Wave it'll be SD, right?
Yes.
But on ViDAC it'll be micro SD. That all comes from the research and development of Geek Wave. Pretty cool.
Yes.
Oh, I think the last question that people are wondering about is the display. Sometimes when you're in a listening room, other than like a desktop situation, you're in your listening room. I know I like this. You turn out the lights and you want to just in darkness listen to music. So people are wondering if we can add a dimmability feature or the ability to turn off the display on ViDAC.
Yes, we will have a new menu item there. I already told the firmware programmer they can just switch off the display.
Yep.
When you touch the remote control, it will back on. But before that, you can switch off.
Yeah, that's a convenient feature. I'm glad you guys brought that up. That's something that I hadn't considered. Did you? Didn't even think about it, actually. So thank you so much for that.
Or designing rules.
Yes, it does. If you have any other questions, feel free to send them in, and we'll...
Oh, by the way, I remember I saw one guy in the forum, he asking about phase inversion.
Phase inversion, yeah.
Yes. Answer, yes, I will do that.
Yeah.
Happy?
Well, we did that on DaVinci, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So, good. If you have any other questions, send them in, guys. Thanks a lot.